Hello, good evening, everyone. Hi. Wow, this is quite the house. Thank you so much for spending your public holiday evening with us. My name is Pauline. I'm the Director of Content and Community at Straits Clan. I just have to say, obviously, we don't do this a lot. Thank you so much for waiting. Thank you so much for queuing. Does everyone have a drink in their hand? Yeah? Yeah? You're out? Can someone pass someone from the back? Thank you so much for doing this. The cast and the crew, they arrived a couple of minutes earlier, so they're just kind of warming up. They're going to be up in a couple of minutes. So I thought we'll just take this chance to say a very warm welcome. Really, really glad to see so many familiar faces here and a lot of new ones. So can I show of hands, how many of you guys are here for the first time? So few. Oh! Don't be shy. Yeah, there you go, these guys. Welcome. And to everyone else, members, welcome back. This is Straits Clan, and we built this space for people from all ages, all industries, all backgrounds to come together to meet people that they never otherwise would have met, and really to connect over shared interests and passions, and shared experiences and shared events. And tonight is a perfect example. And of course, we're all here tonight because we have a fascination of stories. We have a fascination of stories about people, people sharing what inspires them, what are the crazy things that they've done for love, for family, for money sometimes. And because we love connecting people, this is something that we do at every event. So just indulge me for 1 minute. If you could just look around to your left and right and spot someone that you don't know, turn to that person, introduce yourself, and hang on, I'm not done. Hang on. Wait. Whoa. Order in the house. So if you could tell that person, what is the craziest thing that you've ever done for love? Or money, or family. Come on, Dominic, something. I think there are some good stories to the left. Thank you so much. Thank you. So I hope you guys have made a connection, and I hope you guys continue to share stories after this event is over. I don't have a glass to clink. So, are we ready? So in the spirit of stories, I'd like to introduce you to a friend and a member of Straits Clan, Bo Jun Feng. Of course, he knows a thing or two about telling stories. He's an award-winning filmmaker, fresh off directing the National Day Parade this year. Ladies and gentlemen, Bo Jun Feng.
Hello, everyone. How are you feeling today? Good. Well, today we have the honor of having the lead actor, Henry Golding, with us, as well as director John M. Chu, producer John Panotti, as well as Selena Tan, one of the local cast. And also, actually, I see the local cast right in front of me. Please say hi to everyone.
Hello. Everybody's so quiet and well behaved. I thought there was free booze here. No? God damn it.
Okay, so welcome to the Straits Clan, and welcome back to Singapore. I think it's such a rare opportunity to be here, to be talking about the film. And it is a closed-door event, so we can be honest, we can be open about what we want to ask. So I'm going to take about 30 minutes to have a discussion with all of them, and then after that we will open to the floor. And I hope this will remain warm and nice.
It'll definitely be warm because it's
About to say.
humid in here.
So how has it been showing the film in Singapore? You've shown the film in LA, obviously, but then last night was the first time you showed it here. How did it feel?
It was cool because people were cheering when they saw the word Singapore come up on the screen. It was, so that was really cool. They're laughing at different parts, reacting to different moments, which I guess I didn't fully think about until hearing it last night in that audience. And of course, to have all the whole cast here to share that experience again. You know, in LA, it was a lot happening, and you were just sort of, we had a lot of press right before, but here we got to sort of just relax a little bit more, and so it was fun to just experience it all together and be more present. So that's the best part. And to be back here in Singapore, where I remember, you know, several years ago, John and I and a bunch of the producers were scouting here, and it was my first time in Singapore. And I think we went to East Coast Hawker, and I remember not knowing what to expect, feeling very intimidated by the buildings and the architecture and all the stuff coming in, and then going to that hawker and seeing the families and seeing people eat together and people on dates and all ethnicities, all groups of people, that's why in the movie when they go there first, like that's what we wanted to really share, that at the center of this place that seems like the city of the future is family, is tradition, is community.
Henry, how did it feel showing the film here?
I think for me, it was about time. You know, we've been running around for the past month or so. We were doing a tour around a few of the states in America. But to have a film that is so distinctly Singapore from Hollywood premiere in its home city was really magic. It was finally a way that we could really sort of show the people of Singapore what we were trying to do. And it really is a love letter to this beautiful city-state. So it was nice to hear the reactions. Very different in terms of what the Singaporean crowd were laughing with or about. But I think the general consensus really is for a lot of people who watch it around the world is that they just love the story. They love the fact it's this fish out of water love story, love between a young couple, the struggles of sort of family ties. I think that's what everybody takes away from it. So yeah, it's been really nice. We were just at Shaw Cinemas as well, surprising some of the first few to go and watch the film, and it was packed out. Everything was sold out. And we just got the stats. They said that something like 250. What was it? I don't know what kind of units you are, but we were pretty much. I don't know what they were talking about, but it was a third more than Black Panther, a third more than Mission Impossible. So people are really coming out to this, and that makes us really happy.
Congratulations. Well, actually, just talking about the casting of the film, I thought one of the most interesting things, other than seeing the local sites and of the food as well, everything that would make STB very proud, was actually Singlish. Was actually hearing Cheng Man speaking Singlish and seeing. And I was wondering, how did you decide on who was going to be American, who was going to be Singaporean or Malaysian, or how did that come about?
Well, Cheng Man specifically, she was like, "Well, what degree do you want?" And I said, "I'm like, I don't know. What's like 100%?" And she started doing it, and I was like, I don't understand one word. Let's go like 90%. And then I was like, I maybe understood 2 words. Let's go 80%. And we kind of found, we did actually different versions. We literally did a lot of different versions. And then in the edit, I sort of found how much or how little we could do. So, but in terms of the other actors that we cast in it as well, it was, I didn't want anyone to add an accent onto their performance because I knew it would hold people back. Like even people who auditioned for Nick, great actors, some really great actors from all around the world, and then we're like, well, you have to have a British accent for this role, and then they would do that, and it would ruin everything because they were focused on trying to do this accent. It would just, so trying to convince Aquafina to do a Singlish accent for her role, it would destroy the humor. So we changed the character. We just changed and made sure that from the roots of that character was just a different place to start from. And then she could be everything that she could be, and we hired people who could be everything that they could be in their best way. So that was really what determined a lot of that stuff. I just didn't want us to like add on a bunch of false things into it.
And what did it feel like being in a Hollywood production?
Felt well. It felt great. I mean, it was wonderful being on a set where everybody kind of like really were passionate, and I mean, not that it's not passionate here, but they were really chop. Yeah, chop. Yeah, so I mean, it felt great because everybody really knew what they were doing, and they were really like we would take like a third of the scene, and that was what we were shooting the day. I was like, really? We're only shooting these 4 lines? It's a really amazing feeling. Coming onto the set, it always felt like a masterclass to me. I'd watch John work, I'd watch the crew work, I'd watch the other actors, Michelle, and it's like, oh, so that's how they do it, I really felt like I came out of it learning a lot more about how to do things. Yeah.
And for John, last night at the premiere, you were reading out a long list of people or organizations that helped out with the shoot here.
They gave me 3 minutes before we walked on.
Right. What kind of support did you get here? And actually, and on top of that, there is I think it's an elephant in the room. When we realized that our okay, no one's recording this, right? That a certain national carrier isn't on board. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
I don't know how to answer that because there's always a future. So, well, to step back for a second, I did want to say, watching it last night and putting myself in Rachel's shoes, I did 8 years ago or so when I first came to Singapore. I got off the plane, I'm like, this airport has a carpet. There's rugs. I couldn't understand that coming from maybe less beautiful airports. So to me, watching it last night was entering back into Singapore for the first time. What was your question? Oh, the list, okay. There was, I mean, in retrospect, there was a lot of people who did help. It was a challenge. I think we were asking for a lot. And at least what I have found, it's a very helpful community, but nobody really wants to make a decision. So they're all really nice, but then you leave and like, but you didn't say yes. So what do I do? So you come back again, and then you try to get a little closer to a yes. So that ended up happening with a lot of the organizations. Eventually they did help, and there were a lot that were mentioned. And they did each contribute. Like to put a drone in the air, we did have to go through the Air Force, and as we learned, coming back again and doing the helicopter work, it's Singapore government doesn't like things flying over with like things pointing out of the helicopter. But we did end up getting a tremendous amount of support. I mean, looking back, the tourism board, Gardens by the Bay, it ended up being, once it was okay, once it was somebody made a decision, then it really was turned on. And I think it shows. And one of the reasons John was able to shoot such a beautiful film is eventually they opened up the doors, and it shows in the film.
It was your first acting role, right? What was it like being a first-time actor on such a big production?
So many interviews. He just.
I know. He could literally answer every single question that's pointed at me, and I could do the same to him. How was it like filming?
I was a presenter. Focus on presenting when I got a phone call one day.
That's pretty good. So I was a presenter, and No. It was overwhelming. It was intense in the beginning. I really didn't know what I was getting myself in for. I knew it was an opportunity of a lifetime, of course. So I was sort of blown away by that aspect. I was concentrating. You kind of deal with what's in front of you. What's happening later down the line. My first task was to get this role. And so I was concentrating. It was really sort of laser focused, coming into a room, probably about half the size of this, for my first sort of chemistry read. John Panotti was there, John was there. There was about 14 people in this room, probably about half the size of this, and Constance Wu. So for me to fly, it was like terrible flights. I think I got, after 30 hours of trying to get to LA, I have 17 hours left of my day to go to this audition, and pretty much change my life by whatever I'm going to give them. So it kind of goes well, I guess. It was one of those moments where you just have to leave everything on the table. And I felt coming out of it, I was like 90%. I really felt that if they didn't like it from that, then I'm not right for the role. I truly believe that. And so when it came to sort of finding out that I was going to be for Nick Young, and then the next challenge was actually filming the damn thing. And so that was like a whole nother thing. But coming against, people like Constance Wu, Michelle Yeoh, people who have had so much experience, the fact that we had an ensemble cast really helped. The fact that apart from, of course, Constance and Michelle, everybody was so grounded. They've all had sort of careers, be it in Singapore, be it around sort of New York and the States. I had people to lean on. And the fact that we were so close as a family, there was no sort of pressures in that sense. We all knew that the goal was to make the best film possible. And so, yeah, I don't know if that answered your question, but I'm rambling. I'm very jet-lagged. What was the question?
I mean, Henry was so natural from day one. Well, actually, his first audition was pretty bad. He sent it in. He overthought it. It was very dark. I was like, just be yourself. Wow. Be like the guy from Instagram that loves kittens. And but once he settled in, from literally day one, and there's, that's a big cast, a big crew that's surrounding you. The lights are on. You have to memorize your lines, and every time you mess up, like everything has to stop. That's a lot of pressure on any person, and I'm acutely aware of this, knowing that this can get the best of him, especially if you're the first time you're doing this. But he was so natural in front of the camera. I think that your relationship with the camera helped a lot already. So the comfort wasn't, you were comfortable in front of the camera. It was just having that confidence. And so from the very beginning, he was right on top of it. He became this, from day 3, I know we were all talking and seeing how natural he was. He's like a movie star from another era. And we love that about him. And it's so pure. And we knew, like, a scene at the end, there's a scene, I don't know how many people have seen the movie, but there's a scene at the end where he has to, like, rush into the airport, and he's jumping over people and going through things, and people are being rude to him, and he's sort of like trying to, and there's this natural kindness to him through it that makes the scene work. Anyone else doing that scene, it's a very fine line of how to do that. And that's him coming out of that. We knew we had to find someone like that, this natural kindness, this natural charm, effortless charm is what I'm trying to get at, that he had fully in him. And so to see him grow day after day and get better, not just have his natural ability, but then gain the confidence in knowing, like, okay, I need you to stand here and then take the conversation over here. When he was doing it with Michelle Yeoh, and they have this beautiful scene where he's putting, it sounds weird out of context, but his mom is helping him put on his shirt. Audiences love the scene. But it was and it was raining outside, so we couldn't shoot this other scene, so we had to go in. And him with Michelle, there was just this such amazing, like, his performance was lifted so much higher because there was a real energy between the two of them, and he stepped his game up, and you saw the future. You saw this guy is going to work a long time in a scene like that. So subtle, so at ease. When we talk about him being a first time, it's so bizarre to me now because I feel like he's been working for years and years.
But how did you prepare for the role?
I'm gonna fuck this question up too. I think it was for myself in terms of what I've done for Crazy Rich Asians and since in a couple of other movies. It was really a matter of fact of being really present. I knew sort of the story, the backstory for Nick. Was reasonably similar to mine. He's a very independent guy. He doesn't want to be defined by sort of his family riches, and he cares for Rachel. That's his main sort of driving force is the love that he has for his girlfriend. So to have that in your mind and just be like 100% sort of present, which it's so cliche to say, but that's what really helped me through everything, was just to have that close proximity with whoever you're sort of acting with, and just feel every emotion that you're trying to portray and have it feel so sort of normal and natural. But I think, I mean, a lot of people sort of ask, like, oh, what's your backstory for this? But there really wasn't much of sort of planning Nick, because, like as John said, Nick was such a close character to who I was. I think it would just be overcomplicating things. And a lot of what an actor does is plan, throw away, and have this residual sort of memory of what is meant to be. So yeah, it felt natural. It really did. I mean, and I think starting my career with a character like that really lent itself to helping me sort of sit at ease with coming into sort of Hollywood and all its madness. So I got lucky.
Well, it comes down to good casting then.
Yeah. This guy found me, dug me out.
Yeah. Actually, just talking a little bit about how the production or how the film even came about in the first place. I understand that you went through a lot to get it off the ground. What could you tell us a bit more about that?
So I've been around the business for a while now. My last movie I was working on, Now You See Me 2, we were shooting in London, and I remember, and I'm working with some of the best actors in the world, Michael Caine, Morgan Freeman, Ruffalo, Eisenberg, and I remember, and I'm very proud of the movie, and it was a great experience, but I remember feeling, wow, this is another sequel that I've done. This is another franchise that I'm doing, and I started reading all this stuff online about Oscars so whitewashed out, and I never really thought about. I don't know. I think about those things, but I'm just trying to make it in Hollywood. So I'm just trying to make movies and get better as a storyteller. But I'm reading this stuff. It's opening up this part of my brain that I hadn't thought about a lot, and thinking, wow, yeah, Hollywood's really fucked up. Like, why aren't we doing these type of stories? And I look at myself and I'm like, oh shit, I am Hollywood. I'm like the most Hollywood person. I haven't had any other job but in Hollywood, and I realized like, oh, I'm one of the only ones that can do anything. If I actually put my focus on it, I could. All these people were saying all this stuff. I can actually like do something, and so, but it would have to. I would have to look into something that was the most scariest thing to explore, which is my own cultural identity, which. As anyone knows, is scary because you don't have all the answers. You know that anything you do, everyone's going to attack. You know that you're wrong in one camp and you're right in the other camp. You know that they're going to take every detail. They're going to take every detail and judge you and your family and how they raised you. That's the last thing you want. You put yourself in a position. You make movies to like present a show, not to like. I mean, there's a part of you in it, but like you have characters that get to like take the bullets for you. And especially with my family, who's so prideful of our culture, and you know, they have a Chinese restaurant. I grew up in a Chinese restaurant. It's been there for 50 years now, and they still work there every day. So I went searching. I said, I'm gonna clear my slate. I'm not gonna develop anything right now. I want to find the story that speaks to me the most. Also, at a point in my career where I was like, am I an artist? Or am I just like a work guy? Like, am I just a work for hire? And I went on a search. I thought maybe I should move to Beijing and like explore this side of me. So I went there and several times, read a bunch of scripts, met all the people there, got a lot of different offers of things, and nothing there spoke to me. There were Chinese stories, but that wasn't me. And then I got an email from my sister saying, why aren't you got to read this book, Crazy Rich Asians? And sort of poo-pooed it, but I read it and I loved the book. But it wasn't the crazy rich part of it that got me at all. I didn't really care about any of the labels, so I don't even know what those are. So the one thing that got me though was this idea of Rachel Chu, who's kind of the most boring character in the book. I think it's when you rate what people like, Astrid's #1 in the book. Rachel and Nick are the bottom two. In the book. And so when I read this idea of Rachel Chu, who's from Cupertino in the book, which is where my family's from, an Asian American girl going to Asia for the first time. Really, I understood that journey. I remember going to Taiwan at 9 or 10 years old and going to where my mom grew up and seeing the places where she went to school and having this. At 9 and 10, you don't know. You're just traveling, and then having this sense of home and feeling of when you go into a place that they treat you like their son or they treat you like a cousin, and everywhere you go, you're treated like that, and you're looked at as loved, and you don't have to pretend to be anything else. It was a soul awakening experience, and then they call you something like Guaylo. And then you realize this is not they don't see you as part of this either. And so you go home and you feel like you have to choose between one or the other, which is a false choice, but you do, and you think you're the only one in the world. Like, why am I the only Asian kid that feels like this? And the Asian kids at my school look at me and think I'm a sellout, and then my white friends tell Asian jokes to me, and I'm supposed to laugh at those, because then otherwise I'm like being, I'm just being annoying. So all these things, and so you grow up and you hide this part of yourself, and you don't want to deal with it at all. And this is a really long story to get to, Crazy Rich Asians, but that's what I saw in this book. It told this idea that I could share, that I wasn't the only one going through this experience, and you could tell it through a character. We knew if we centered it around her, one, it would help clear away the stuff from the book that we had to narrow down, and two, she could then become our most interesting character. And Nick could be freed by her freedom of finding her own self-worth. This idea of self-worth I've been thinking about a lot, is that how you feel about yourself determines who you think who can love you and who you can love. It determines what you think you can achieve, what you think you're capable of achieving. It affects everything in your life, how you feel about where you fit into the puzzle of this crazy world. And so I love that idea, and it was a very universal, simple idea, but very specific to my own journey, and yet it was also a story, a fake story, that we can build characters in and do things to get in the way and make it a fun movie in itself. And you had this sugary, flowery top on it, which was the crazy rich world, that could intrigue people to get them into the hive, and then you could take them on this journey. And I thought it had all the elements that I love, I knew that I was one of the only people that could bring this specific idea to life. And as I explored it more, I knew that we had something very special. And so I basically forced John Pennati and all the producers to hire me and do that.
It was not hard.
But was it difficult to get it off the ground?
Funny to hear that journey because we came about it obviously a different way. I first read it when an executive at the studio told me that this book you should take a look. We can't do it because we'll never do a movie where we can't cast a white woman to play Rachel. That was absolutely the comment, and so we can't do it. So you should read it. What happened? We read it. We tried to pursue it. At that point, it was going out to studios, and they were still hoping somebody would buy it at a studio. To our great luck, it wasn't bought. Eventually, Kevin was looking for producers to shepherd it. We were working out of New York at that time. Kevin got lucky to find a company called Color Force, and really two producers who really he connected with, Nina Jacobson and Brad Simpson, who they do a bunch of little movies, as Hunger Games or something like that. I don't know. I've never seen it, but he connected with them. He understood how they saw the movie. Just at that time, they were trying to figure out, well, studios aren't going to kind of jump at this, so is there someone else who could help get the development going and figure out how to get it made? Kevin's agent at the time knew that we were interested in when it previously went out and said, listen, you should call Nina and talk to these guys. And so we're like, I don't understand. This is terrific. This must be something wrong that they're coming to us. And they did, and Nina and Brad were confident that by this time my company was working a lot in Asia, and they took a chance with us, and then we funded and got the script to the place where it needed to be. John, you didn't mention the story, which I think is terrific, that the weekend that we got the script to at least a place that maybe we could attract someone like John, we sent it to him. And then, and I think it's the same weekend that it happened. John,
I emailed my agent. So I had read the book earlier, and then I was reminded about it that Friday from my sister again. It's like, why aren't you doing this movie again? And so I emailed my agent, like, oh yeah, what's going on with Crazy Rich Asians? And he's like, oh, Ivanhoe and Nina and Brad are involved. I was like, great, I love those people. I've always wanted to work with them. Can you send me the script? He's like, yeah. So he sent me the script. And then on Sunday, I was like, I want to be a part of this movie. I know how to. The script was good, not great. It was missing a lot of pieces. So I said, I know how to get this into the great spot. Get me in that room. And then he said, how did you know that they sent it to you? I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, they sent it. When you called, they had already sent it. And so it was a weird, one of those things that happened. It was one of many signs from the universe or God or whatever you want to call it, that actually said, you're supposed to do this movie. Win or lose, you're supposed to do this movie. Again, one of many, many. We can go through a whole list of things, that weird signs for the universe, and it gave me the confidence, like, oh, we're making this movie. It doesn't matter. And again, win or lose, there's some sort of purpose to all this.
John's actually in the book. He has failed to mention that once. So explain how you're in the book.
So another weird thing. I later find out, like a week after we met probably for the first time, that my cousin Vivian Chu, who lives in New York, is best friends with Kevin Kwan. And Kevin apparently based a lot of these stories of the Chus in Cupertino on her stories, telling about how she would come, because she was the black sheep of the family. She's the one who like moved away to New York and got into fashion. And so he would tell, I guess she talked about the crazy Chu family in Cupertino and all of our things. So he based a lot of Rachel's stories off of Vivian's stories. And I guess in one part of the book, and I remember reading this, being like, that's weird. Nick is defending Rachel's family that they have to work for their money to Eleanor. And he says, yes, they have to work for their money, but They work hard, and they even have a cousin who directs movies in Hollywood, which is really weird. So when you read that in a book, you're like, oh, that's very similar to my life. Oh, well. And then when they tell you, it's very Truman Show. You don't ever think it actually is about you. So that was another one of those weird things that happens. I don't know.
I'll say, when John did come in and talk to us about what he wanted to do, I don't know if we even contained our excitement. It went from a meeting of like, listen, here's what we want to do, to please do it now. It's exactly what you just pitched us. Let's do that.
Oh,
And
no,
it
I
was
knew. I got you guys.
It was an awesome presentation. There was family photos, him in costumes when he was like 5 years old, pictures of your mom and your dad.
Yes, it's true.
that
I
were
told my
just
whole
like-
history.
It was just awesome.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the film has been. Obviously, it's true that it's been 25 years since an all Asian American or Asian cast in a Hollywood film, and it has been also very much marketed that way. I mean, to a lot of success, obviously. But of course, when that conversation came to Singapore, it inspired some reactions with especially some of the minority groups here. And I just thought it was an interesting conversation to be having when the idea of a minority group in the States.
Why are you looking at me? I'm sorry, I'm kidding. That was totally clear.
Well, because okay, so the thing is, I think it's an interesting conversation to be had here. Although, of course, I think a lot of the criticism that's laid upon the film may not necessarily be fair to what the film is. However, I do think that the conversation surrounding what minority representation means, and especially in Singapore, when actually the Chinese among us are the privileged majority, and the conversations that we haven't had about how film media lacks representation of minorities is an interesting conversation to be had. So I'm curious, when you were trying to get this off the ground, what were some of the hurdles that you had to cross for even a studio to have confidence in a project like that?
One, I think to say one movie needs to represent everybody, all Asians everywhere, I think is problematic. I don't think one movie can do that. I do welcome the conversation, though, because I think what a privilege to have that conversation about what a movie about Asians should be about, because we don't get to have that conversation ever, especially in Hollywood. But you don't ask that question of Woody Allen when he's making a movie about New York, about, well, what about all the taxi drivers' stories when you're telling a story? There's a very specific story, had a very specific thing. If we wanted to, the whole idea is to crack the door so those stories can be told. We have to, as a group, start somewhere. What is the Bruce Lee quote of, like, you know, if I'm pointing to the moon, don't focus all your attention on the finger, because you'll miss the glory of the moon, of where we're headed. This is a first step. There's no promise that this is the end-all, be-all. We've never said that this was the end-all, be-all. It's a movie called Crazy Rich Asians. For goodness sake, it's a fun movie. It's a joyful movie. It deals with one person's perspective, an Asian American's perspective. This is not even technically a story of Singapore itself. It's about an American coming to Singapore and feeling what Singapore, and not even really, I mean, Singapore is a big character in this movie, but it's really in context to Nick and his family. It's a love story of that. And so it's a reflection of that specific family. So to deviate from any of that stuff, even in script phase, even we were like, well, it's not in the story, it's not in the book that everyone has read, and it's not in, so to create stuff just to create stuff didn't make any sense. And at the same time, we're trying to like focus in. The best movies are the ones where you're rooting for the main character and you know this person and you are in her head. It's Alice in Wonderland. And so to me, that was our focus throughout. But again, I think it's also a symptom when people want more representation. It's the symptom of the system that has failed us. So I don't blame people for being angry or frustrated. That's the problem, and that's what we're trying to open up. That's what we're trying to change here, and you have to start somewhere. If we could change it all, do 10 stories about Singapore, I would love to do that, but we're not there yet, at least in the Hollywood studio system. Here, of course, we can do all those things. Independent, of course, they're already doing it. Netflix, they're doing it. The oldest system in the world that needs most changing is the Hollywood studio system. It's the most slowest, the most like they don't see the bigger picture. And so when we even had a choice of where to distribute this film, where we wanted this film out, we had to think about all these things. And we knew the one thing that was such an old system was the movie system, and the one thing hardest to break was the movie system, because it's not just, oh, go make that thing and put it up. It's go make that thing, then we have to spend more money telling people to go see it. Then we have to hope that they leave their homes, fight parking, stand in lines, get food, sit in a room, turn off the lights, turn off their phones, and then sit back and say, okay, tell me a story. And to me, that is a powerful thing for a studio, for a conglomerate, not just studios anymore. It used to be one guy could be like, yes, go make that movie. Not anymore. This is a board of people in a conglomerate. This is a public company saying, yes, it's worth our millions and millions of dollars to bet on this story, on these people. We chose to do it with Warner Brothers because we knew that if we could get this through, and we had enough confidence that we could, that the message that would send to the world, to other media companies, to all places, would be that we are worth your time and your energy. We are worth you going into a dark room and looking up to us and letting us tell you jokes and seeing how beautiful and fierce and intelligent and layered and complicated and sometimes evil and sometimes heroic we can be, that we're more than just the computer nerd or the ninja whatever it is that they make us be. Again, this was one start to a much bigger idea that we're trying to get to, and that takes time, and that takes not just us. It takes all the filmmakers and writers who feel like they haven't been heard to continue to make that stuff. For actors who have been trained and are doing theater and are doing films to come and keep going, because we need you now more than ever. It's actually the future of cinema. I think this is this new cinematic universe. I think you can have you can have your superheroes all you want. But if you want to talk about why movies have always been great, it's because it's for rebels, it's for troublemakers, it's for the stories that can't be told in other mediums where people throw down, and it affects the world. And so, to me, this is the spirit that has been lost in movies. Like, where are the stories that we haven't heard, the ones that spark imagination and spark us playing in the backyard to pretend we're those people too? And I think this is actually, with Black Panther, with Get Out, with us, with other movies that are coming, Hollywood has to get on board in order to survive. And that's actually the full power of cinema. If we weren't a movie, I don't think we would have this fervor that's been happening to us. And this has been a complete surprise to us. But at the same time, also not. Like, that's the power of movies. And movies are not gone. They are here. We can feel it, and that's how we got on the cover of Time magazine. That's how you get in the New Yorker. That's how it permeates through all culture.
And just this week,
Too much coffee. I had a lot of coffee. Sorry. They make good lattes here, just so you know.
And just this week, 2 studios did greenlight 2 Asian-focused global films, which I have to believe it's a result of, at least the timing is a result of kind of the crack that has been opened up.
And can I say one more thing? Can I reveal this? I don't know if I can read this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Safe zone. Again, another result, small result, but in The Simple Favor, which Henry is the romantic lead with Blake Lively and Anna Kendrick, he hasn't been in any of the posters. It's been the 2 girls. After this week, they called him up. We're like, we got to take more pictures, bro. We got to get you in those posters.
You're in.
So now to have him on the poster, It seems small, but these are direct results of eyeballs, real world, looking up to this person on the screen. You cannot take that away from just a simple, oh, we open big, and that these real results happen in real time.
On that note, are there questions from the floor? I'm sure there is. Yes.
I'm enjoying the conversation.
Try to inject a lot. I know there's a little bit of the Singaporean endeavor here, the nationalistic endeavor, and
I think that was a little overplayed. I probably said that in one interview when Janice and I were asked how Singaporean our accents should be. Of course, we had a couple of lines, and Janice and I had a lot of waiting time, and we would kill each other with like, so how do you think we should say this, sister? How do you think we should say that? So we were having fun trying to figure out what accent the aunties would have. And of course, in the end, we realized and that Singaporeans code switch a lot. So when we're talking to people whom we think need to listen to us in a particular accent, that's where we go to. Then when we are with our own family, we let go a little bit and then we, sort of add in the little Singlish, which is why I think Cheng Man's character was so appropriate for the Singlish to come out, because she was, at home with her family, and what a crazy family that was. So, no, a character cannot switch. She's an alien, alien, yes. Thai alien. I mean, Ko Cheng Man is Dolly, right? Yeah, so...
I have no idea what's happening. No idea.
Yeah, so, and to John's credit, I mean, he had to see the big picture, and also who this movie was going to speak to. And, like he said, with Cheng Man's character, having to tone, 100%, 90%, 80%, until a point where universally we could be understood. I think that's great. And actually, Jun Feng was the one who pointed it out to me after watching the film yesterday. There's actually a lot more Singlish than you thought there would be, or that...
Yeah, I mean, the first time when the text, I don't know if everyone's seen the film, but then when the text first came out, I was surprised to see actually Singlish in text.
A lot more Alamax.
Yeah. More than Alamax, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was quite pleasantly surprised.
Thank you.
Yes. The gentleman, the t-shirt.
Hi. First of all, watched it last night. It was amazing. So bravo to you guys. Seriously, a hell of an accomplishment. I've noticed that with everyone sitting on stage, so this is actually for all of you, this is a first in a lot of ways for all of you guys, as a producer, as a Singaporean actor, as an actor, and as a director who did tentpole franchises before delving into your first rom-com. So now that you know that the film is a success in a lot of ways, was there any moment where you thought this was a really bad fucking idea?
We should start with John, maybe.
Again, no. We didn't necessarily understand where it would go, but there was never a moment from the first development that we knew what we were heading for. So it was only about how well could we do that, as opposed to, holy shit, we're fucked. So, no, at least in my point of view, never happened.
So some of the movies I've done, Step Up to the Streets, definitely a moment where I thought, this is not a good idea. Turned out okay. Step Up 3D. When I actually worked with the 3D camera, definitely not a good idea at that moment. Justin Bieber, Never Say Never. Definitely many moments where I thought that was not a good idea. And it goes on and on. But Gem and the Holograms, yeah, I definitely thought that was not a good idea. Yesterday. No, I'm kidding. But this one, it was divine intervention. From that first moment, I knew. The best thing about Gem, I had to deal with failure. I had to deal with, why am I doing this? Why am I telling stories? And I came to a emotional agreement with myself that I was never going to do it for box office. Even though everyone tells you that's what it is, like, my job is to make a great story and then send it off to the world. So I emotionally cut myself off from that, and then also reviews. So emotionally cut myself off. Fuck Rotten Tomatoes. So doing this, I was in that new mode. I do see as like a chapter 2 of in that new mode, make the movie, give the story to the world, and then so I haven't fully been able to. When you do that, you also don't get to enjoy when people also enjoy it, because that's not. So it's been an interesting backside to this of staying focused on just making our story and moving forward. So no, there was never. It was always, we're doing this. That's it.
I think for the actors, it's a very different sort of gamble. Really, it's not much of a gamble. You really put your heart out to it. But to have leaders in Pinotti, in Nina Jacobson, Brad Simpson, John Chu, we had the people to really kind of drive this ship, and we knew that whatever decisions they made, whatever choices they've had to sort of make and overcome to this point are the right ones. So it's really about putting 100% faith in your leaders. So as actors, you lend yourself to pretty much John's palette, so he can paint this beautiful picture that is sort of in his head and nestled in there. So for us, it was just a joy. You know, we had the easiest part of it, and I think for Selena, how would you say from the local sort of with the Singaporean?
I think certainly
side?
there was a confidence in the creatives, and I went on set. I never doubted for a moment that people knew what they were doing, and I was happy to just say the lines and do as I was told, and I know that it was in good hands. So I was quite confident in that.
I'll say one, but to your point, that feeling was over time, well before John got involved, which really propelled the film, and that's why it happened. So we went from conversations with great companies that I won't name, but maybe are here in Asia, who are like, well, that's about Singaporean rich people. We're Beijing rich people. And I'd hear these comments, and I'm like, that's the weirdest thing. What are you talking about? It's just a movie that has a through line. But there were a lot of those doubters. But it's something new, so everyone's trying to kind of find a way to tell you it won't work.
Well, I thought it was interesting that you were saying how, for the first time, you kind of put yourself out there as an artist and being vulnerable in a way, because you've put so much of yourself in the film. Did that make you actually feel like the stakes were so much higher?
Well, I mean, as a filmmaker, you put everything into any movie. All my movies have a piece of myself, and you lose friends, you lose girlfriends over that time. So you earn your badges for each one. They're your babies. But this one in particular, I think because I was talking about my family, that you feel like it's not just me on the line. It's my family's story that's on the line. So did I feel that pressure? In a way, I don't know. This one happened. It was smoother than anyone I've ever done. It was more natural than anyone I've ever done. I never had to fight for an answer. I never had to, I called my parents. I talked to our cast, how they thought about certain scenes, their experiences. That was one of the best parts of this whole experience, was meeting our amazingly talented cast. Everyone had a story from wherever they came from, of how they got here, of the theater shows they had to be in, of the commercials that they had to be in, of the journey of their life. And that, in my own way, I learned a lot about other Asians that I never really thought. Global Asians from all other places. These are things that stupid Americans never really think about. And so it was really a learning experience for myself. And so that part, after having that, then I felt the pressure of like, God, I hope I get to show the best parts. We had such a great experience. And when you have a great experience on set, sometimes that means you're not going to make as good of a movie. So the pressure was on to make us all proud that we could remember this time as something that was not just great personally, but to have something. We said it on, we have a WhatsApp group that's been going on for a year and a half that doesn't end ever. Especially in the last 2 weeks, it's been like really crazy. But we always say it's like it was like our summer vacation video went viral, and so like everyone's seeing our shit. So yeah.
Anyone? Yeah, you had a. Oh, actually, that lady in the back had a question.
Oh, right. Simple question. How's your Singlish now? Especially for the Americans.
Who, me?
Yeah.
It's okay. Not that great.
Just one more question. So you guys obviously have a couple sequels coming up because there are more books and all that. You guys have done the first movie. Are there things that you've learned from this movie that you think you're gonna change or perhaps adapt differently in the sequels? Or maybe there aren't sequels, you know.
Yeah, well, we don't know for sure. We should be in meetings right now talking about that, but we're not. We're here. No, there's no guarantee of a sequel. Although I hope with all the box office stuff that's happening that we get there. Would love to. I think the main thing is our cast, like filling all these parts out with people who are so capable of taking the story in so many different directions. I think now we can, especially with our writers, we can like go after characters and really like explore who they are. This one was very focused. It was intentionally focused because we knew we couldn't do everything. Now I think we have some inspiration within everybody of where we can play up, where the Go family goes, where where Kitty Pong explores. If you read the second and third book, she becomes a much bigger role, and with Fiona specifically, it's hard to convince someone her stature to do such a tiny part in your movie, but you know that this character is important. You have to have somebody who's capable of showing this fun comedic side and then spinning it much later down the road. And so Fiona and I had a lot of conversations of like, trust me, I know this is kind of crazy and silly, and it's gonna be really fun in this movie, but we need someone. We can't just have some random person do this. We need to have someone who has the chops to carry this story forward. So it was a lot of trust on her part, on many people's parts as we go. So I think that's what I'm really excited about. Now I know who these characters are more than just on the paper, and we get to drum it up. So.
Could we just acknowledge the cast for a moment? I'm looking at everybody and I'm like, it's just remarkable.
And Jasmine Chen here, she does a lot of our songs in it. She's like the jazz singer at Tyrosel Park, and I remember hearing her songs on YouTube and being like, wow, this is like the spirit of this movie. This Chinese jazz covers were just so beautiful, and so we just hit her up on YouTube, and here she is, and she did an amazing job. So it's really cool to have you here too. And music is our secret weapon. When you watch the movie, you'll feel it. When I shared some of the music playlists with my mom, she freaked out. She knew all the words to the song. She's like, "This is what we used to dance to in China. We used to do the jitterbug to this. Oh my gosh!" So to have that sense, and then to also take contemporary songs and add Chinese vocals on it was like really. It was just the essence of who we are, this remixed generation that gets to take tradition and culture forward, and we have to pick and choose like the things that work for that and how we're passing this on to our kids.
Any more questions? Oh, yes.
I'll say, because I probably won't have a chance, that I had a small role in your film, and it was so exciting, and I just wanted to thank you for having me in your film.
Thank you. Do you have a good time doing it?
Yeah, it was in Malaysia, you won't remember it, but
Where was it?
it was something to do with pageants.
Oh yes, of course, of course.
Maybe it was?
Yes, of course. That was a fun scene to shoot. It was very hot. We had a whole scene. We had a whole dance number on the bachelor party night, and it was crazy and wild. A little too crazy and wild. And our movie was a little too long, so we had to snip it a little bit, but. Oh, good, good. No, it's a lot of fun.
I think we have time for one last question.
How much was left on the cutting floor?
I know, David. What's up, David? David used to be my cameraman for a lot of my travel shows
Hey, Edric.
from Channel News Asia.
We poo together.
Yeah,
Panda
he
poo.
was the one who was in the poo-poo stirring thing. Anyway, that's another story. Say again. Sorry, David.
Sorry. How much was left on the cutting floor? And it's like what portions you kept and what portions you wish you would kept.
From my experience of what we filmed and what is sort of seen in the film itself, there's a good like third of a whole nother film that was ready and waiting to be sort of shared with everybody. But the sheer fact that John had to make these difficult decisions in cutting entire storylines out of this amazing story and concentrate yet again with that core sort of element of Rachel's journey, and that sort of encircled Rachel and Nick and their awkward or difficult relationship with Eleanor. A lot of Astrid and Michael stuff with Charlie that you see at the end, played by the superbly handsome Harry Shum Jr., was a lot, in fact, more in the film originally. But he had to, and John's actually worked with Harry for the longest time. They've pretty much grown up together in Hollywood. So to have to make those hard decisions with one of your best friends, to have to cut him out of this story, it just goes to show how important it is to really hone back in on that core element, which is the love of the story. So there's tremendous jokes that were left, like half the stuff that the comedians, to have like a full sort of body of comedians at your sort of will, throwing out amazing lines one after the other.
Very dirty lines.
Very, very dirty. Like Aquafina, Ken Jeong is a living meme.
Really dirty jokes.
Yeah, Selena's stuff, half of her stuff didn't get in there. But I think the DVD extra is going to be pretty colorful, to say the least. But yeah, no, all credit to John for having to make those tough decisions. It's the hardest place to be in the world, but to make the decision and live by it is commendable.
Do we have time for one last one? Okay, there was one at the back. Yeah.
Hi, the question is... Hi. Thanks for the... I watched the show today before coming here. And a friend who read the book, who was seated beside me, told me that the text message that Astrid received about the husband cheating, it was changed from a more naughty one to the bed feels empty without you. So was there other bits that you had to make it less saucy, and is it because it's going to be a mainstream release, or?
Yeah, in the
and
book.
can I take a picture of Henry after this? Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Am I supposed to answer the question now or not? I think that was all right. In the book, in the movie, it says, "I miss your bed is empty without you." In the book, it's "I miss you inside of me." It was just a little, I don't know, it felt weird to read on screen like that. It was just too much. So, I know it's like this elegant, beautiful, I miss you inside of me. So it created like giggles, so we had to tone it down a little bit. There's other parts, like the bachelor party. In the book, they do dog fighting. And if you know anything about making movies, don't ever hurt a dog in your movie because you will lose your audience so quickly. Humans can die. Children can die. But if a dolphin loses a fin, you're screwed. So we had to find creative ways around that. I'm sure there's other things I don't fully remember, but those are some of the things up from the top of my head. It's just a different medium. Movies are a different medium, so you have to. There's a different sensitivity to certain things.
Okay, well, with that, I think we're out of time, but I think you'll all join me in thanking everyone on this panel for a wonderful discussion.
Should we? Why don't you come on down to take that picture because he's gonna leave real soon. So come on down here. Otherwise, we'll never find you. Come on in. Come on in. Would you like him to take off his shirt? No? No? Okay. No? No? Okay, fine. Oh, you want me to take it? My mom is going to be so proud of me. Shot by Russell Wong here. Wow, go ahead. Optimal angles.
It's going to cost you a lot. It's going to cost you a lot of money, man.
I think you should do it this way with a whole audience. Do it this way. The whole audience. All of us
Always
in
the
it.
director.
All right, everybody stay alive. Put your, yes, there you go. Ready?
Here we go. 1, 2. You didn't smile.